What is the best decision you've made while drunk? To sit down in my friend's car instead of going back inside to have sex with this hot chick. When I was 17, my friends had this one going away party. It was probably the first time I drank alcohol. I was sitting next to a girl who initiated conversation with me, which was a shocker. We talked and danced all night. I got pretty freaked up in general. And I never had sex before. I remember my buddy always kept condoms in his car. When I got inside the car I sat down and decided to just go to sleep. I was too afraid of having sex and too afraid to go back inside and tell her no. So I fell asleep in his car. The next day she had already left, but a friend of mine decided to brag about having sex with her. He bragged about this for a month or two and never brought it up again. It was weird, especially for him. I found out later that he caught something from her. Never knew exactly what it was and never wanted to ask. Just very thankful I didn't have sex with her. Hid my money from myself in Vegas. I was there for 2 nights and did pretty decent. Night 1. Night 2 I blacked out a little bit before bed. Next day I wake up and I'm short about $120. I was so upset, thinking I must have gambled it away before going to my room. On the drive home we hit a zone where we had no signal for radio or phones, so I started looking through my photos to kill time. I find a video of myself in my room looking at the camera, greeting myself with, "Hey Dipes. I know you're blacked out right now, so I'm going to save you from yourself. Here's $120 non-spending money, and I put it at the bottom of your bag." I pulled out my bag and sure as crap found that money. Made the hangover a little more bearable. Years ago I had this huge crush for my good friend's brother. Never was brave enough to admit either of them. Only about 3 other friends knew about it. Well, I was drinking with one of them and talked about my crush and how dreamy he was. It started really piss off my friend that all did was just talking about it and doing nothing to improve the situation. She got wicked idea. She partly bribed and partly dared me to call my crush's sister, my good friend, and confess. After a couple drinks more and more drunk stupidness, I decided to do just that. First I texted her and asked if I can call her. She texted yes. I called her and said, "Don't be mad. Promise me you won't get mad, but I love your brother and have loved him years now." She was dumbfounded and asked what I wanted her to do about it. I said, "IDK, but don't be mad," and hung up. Long story short, she did something about it and find out that her brother had crush on me also. Things led to odder things and we have been together now 6 years and are planning to get married. His sister is still good friend of mine and still laughs about this story. She said it will be part of wedding speech. Now she says that she does not understand why did I, though she would be mad at me. I think I was afraid that she would see my crush as something which would ruin our friendship. Drunk phone calls are usually big no-no for me, but this one changed my life. We were getting drunk, and one of my friends was trying to come up with a way to put our drinks on his company card. I realized that, since I was working for a newspaper at the time, we could call it an interview, and thus a business expense. Side note, my dad does this all of the time. He's a farmer, so if we talk about tractors for a couple of minutes, he can get a tax rebate through his business. We got away with it because later that night, the dude was blackout drunk and accidentally booked a flight to New York on the same card. Suddenly, a $100 bar tab didn't look so bad. And no, I don't think he ever got to New York. I made grilled cheese at 2 AM once, but instead of using plain toast I made it with garlic bread. I used to deliver small airplanes as a sort of side gig. The best part for me was simply being by myself, often for days, and just enjoying leisurely flights over the US. One evening several years ago, I'd had a few too many and invited my dad to join me on a 3 to 4 day trip to deliver some guy's new plane from the Northwest. Disclaimer, although I care about him, dad can be very stressful to travel with on long trips. So the next morning I was a little annoyed with myself for doing this. Due to medical issues, that turned out to be the last vacation he ever had, and we had a great time. I'd hate to have missed that week with him. We had a get together at my place a couple years ago, just me and 3 of my classmates. One of them recently broke up with his GF and was heartbroken. We got quite drunk and they left the next morning, but said classmate came back for his charger and told me that thanks to what I've said the day before, they are getting back together with GF. I was glad obviously, but to this day I have no clue what I've told him. I was very drunk. They are still together by the way. Not to carpool with my homie after a huge mansion party where we all got drunk. I had done it before, but got some smart impulse not to this time. After I took an Uber and got home to sleep, I woke up from my alcohol-induced sleep and found out from his mom that he ended up flipping the car into a canyon. The roof caved, he broke his neck, and ended up with what luckily turned out to be temporary paralysis. As thankful as I am that he's well and walking now, and just as functional a person as he once was, I'm glad I didn't take the car ride with him. When I was 21 I was quite the alcoholic, and I had started using cocaine quite frequently. It started to develop into an addiction as I was doing it alone at my house on a daily basis. One day I was drinking alone at home, and went to the gas station to pick up some smokes. On the way back, a high school friend of mine was walking his dog, and I picked him up. He wanted to smoke some weed, and so we went back to my place. He started talking about how he just got out of rehab and was telling me about how bad addiction was, all of the signs, etc. He had no clue I was using coke. I very emotionally opened up to him and ended up throwing a little less than an 8-ball into the trash. Haven't touched the crap since. To this day the decision to go to the gas station to buy cigarettes when I was drunk was the best one I have ever made. A friend and I were very drunk, and I was talking about how I wanted to get a dog. I've had them my whole life, but never one of my own. We browsed the local shelter's website, and I found one that looked and sounded perfect. The next morning, we went to the shelter. We were both super hungover, so much so that my friend threw up in the corner of their outdoor area. I met my future dog, played with him a bit, and told them I would be back the next day to take him home. And if I'm being honest, I was in that half drunk / half hungover phase. I went back the next day and picked him up. My friends kept asking if I was rushing into it, and I just brushed them off. 7 years later, we've moved 5 times, including across the country, and he's been my best friend the entire time. He's been the one constant in my life since I got him. Although I personally regret nothing, please do not get a dog on a drunken or sober whim unless you are 100% dedicated. Hosted a massive college house party, and I was extremely intoxicated and made the decision to steal my roommate's Bacardi and mix with orange juice. Definitely should have stopped at this point. I don't remember much, but I remember pouring about a shot of orange juice and filling the tall glass with rum until it became clear. I woke up the next morning next to the very large empty Bacardi bottle and feeling wonderful, however remorseful that I stole from my best friend. I profusely apologized that evening when friend finally recovered and committed to replacing said bottle, but he broke out into a uncontrollable laughter to the extent it caused him to dry heave. The bottle was destined to join our many decorative liquor bottles and had been filled with water accordingly. I never lived down my night of binge drinking Bacardi H2O. Went out on a girls' night. I was approached by a man and we started talking. He asked if he could introduce me to his friend. I said yeah, sure, and he brought his friend over and then walked away. I didn't realize introduce you to my friend meant my friend thinks you're hot, but is afraid to approach you himself. I didn't find this friend attractive and was friendly, but distanced myself. When the bar closed, the original guy came up to me and asked what I thought of his friend. I told him he wasn't my type and he laughed and asked me what my type was. I was a bit drunk and felt pretty bold, so I responded with you. Turns out I had caught his eye from the moment he saw me, but his friend vocalized his attraction, so he approached me for him. Bro code went out the window as soon as I said how I felt. We'll be together for 6 years this coming February. We are living in our 6th state in so many years, and we are so happy with each other. It's been such an adventure, and maybe if I hadn't said anything, as I usually wouldn't have, I'd still be living in that small town, feeling like the walls were closing in on me. When we met, my life was at a bit of a standstill. I've got a good job now. I'm slowly getting out of debt. I just got the first car I've owned since 2009, and I've been to amazing places with him by my side. to move back home. We moved around so much that I didn't really have a hometown, but the place I ended up graduating high school from felt more like home than anywhere. I moved out of state after high school, became severely depressed, lost my job and my dog, and had literally nothing in life left to look forward to. I drank a fifth of Jim Beam one night after having a bad depressive episode and felt more homesick than I had in my entire life. I decided then and there to move back. I got up with one of my old friends. He helped me get decent job for a 19-year-old. We ended up dating, and now we've been married for almost 14 years. Life has turned out okay.